There's a reason your business feels stuck, chaotic, or empty, no matter how many hours you work or strategies you try. Here's the hard truth most won't tell you. If you didn't start with God, you already started wrong. And if you keep ignoring Him, everything you're building might come crashing down. Sounds harsh? It's not. It's mercy. Because what looks like a successful Christian business on Instagram might be spiritually bankrupt behind the scenes. The marketplace is flooded with ambition, hustle, and how-to formulas. But very few are built on God's blueprint. That's why so many entrepreneurs burn out, compromise their values, or chase money while losing their soul. But what if you could build something that actually honors God, blesses people, and leaves a legacy, without sacrificing your peace, your family, or your faith? You don't need another business course. You need a spiritual foundation. A godly business doesn't start with branding. It starts with brokenness. Not with confidence, but with calling. If that sounds backwards, it's because God's way is countercultural, and that's why it works. This video will walk you through the biblical mindset, principles, and strategies to align your business with God's will before it's too late. So buckle up. This might confront you. It might even offend you. But if you stay with me until the end, it might also change your entire financial future, and maybe even your eternity. The invisible foundation. Why without God, your business is already failing. A Christian business is not built on ambition alone. It's built on alignment. Alignment with God's principles, His timing, and His purpose. Many entrepreneurs rush into the marketplace with brilliant ideas but no spiritual blueprint. They invest in branding, marketing, and growth strategies, but neglect the cornerstone, a relationship with the Creator. And when the spiritual foundation is weak, even the strongest business plans begin to crumble under pressure. You can have the best investors, the most skilled team, and even a revolutionary product. But if God didn't authorize it, you're building on sand. Jesus said in Matthew 7:26-27 that the man who builds his house on sand will see it fall when storms come. Business is full of storms, economic downturns, bad partnerships, burnout. A godly business needs to be built on rock, prayer, obedience, and purpose. If you skip that, you might make money, but you won't have peace or longevity. Let's get practical. Before launching anything, be it a product, a new branch, or a business idea, ask God first. Not in a shallow last-minute prayer, but in deep fasting, scripture, and waiting. Read the book of Nehemiah. He prayed for months before building anything, and when he did move, it was with God's favor. You don't need just a business plan. You need a spiritual plan that covers your money, mission, and mindset. Here's something to reflect on. Are you really the CEO of your business? Or have you let God sit at the head of the table? Because if He's not in the foundation, your business is not just at risk, it's already on a path to collapse. And that's exactly what leads us into the next hard question every entrepreneur must face: calling or craving? The difference between purpose-driven and ego-driven entrepreneurship. One of the biggest traps in the business world, especially for believers, is confusing a divine calling with a personal craving. Not every idea that gives you butterflies is a God-given mission. Sometimes it is just ego dressed in ambition. A true godly business is birthed in the secret place, not on a whim. If the reason you're starting something is to prove a point, get rich quick, or copy someone else's success, you're not being led. You're being lured. A calling comes with burden. A craving comes with rush. When God calls someone to business, He doesn't just give them dreams. He gives them responsibility. Look at Joseph in Genesis. His journey to leading Egypt's economy began in a prison, not a pitch meeting. It was marked by tests, humility, and timing. If your business can't survive obscurity, rejection, or waiting, it might not be a calling. It might be a craving disguised as a plan. Here's how you test it. Can you still love the vision even when no one's clapping for it? Would you keep going even if the money didn't come fast? Read The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren and Business by the Book by Larry Burkett. These help you filter your motives through a biblical lens. A Christian business should glorify God even in the unseen, quiet, uncelebrated beginnings, not just on launch day with confetti. So before you pour your savings, time, and energy into your dream, ask, is this God's assignment or just my agenda? Because mistaking a craving for a calling can bankrupt more than just your wallet. It can drain your faith. And if you don't get this right, what comes next might hurt even more. The business tithe, the forgotten key to blessing your profit. In the rush to grow a business, Christian entrepreneurs often forget a spiritual principle that unlocks supernatural provision: the tithe. Not just your personal tithe, but your business tithe. A godly business doesn't just aim for profit, it aims for purpose. And part of that purpose is honoring God with the first fruits of your revenue. Malachi 3:10 doesn't say, pay your bills and then bring what's left. It says, bring the whole tithe, and see if I won't open the floodgates of heaven. Many entrepreneurs tithe personally but treat the business as something secular. That's a mistake. If God is your senior partner, He deserves His portion from the business too. When you tithe from the profits of your company, you're declaring that the success didn't come from your hustle, but from His hand. This isn't a tax. It's an act of trust, and when trust is honored, blessing follows. Money given to God never leaves your life. It just changes its assignment. Let me get practical. Every time your business generates income, set aside 10% and sow it. Support missionaries, feed families, invest in ministries that align with your values. You'd be surprised how many Christian business owners began doing this and saw debt disappear, clients multiply, and peace flood their operations. Want examples? Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A are modern cases of companies that prioritize biblical stewardship and generosity, and it shows. If you've been praying for financial breakthrough but have locked heaven's windows by holding back the tithe, maybe it's time to shift. Because the secret to lasting wealth in business isn't just innovation or scaling, it's obedience. And this principle sets the stage for a deeper level of divine strategy. Planning with prayer. Strategies birthed in heaven. Work on earth. Planning is not a sin. In fact, it's biblical. But planning without prayer is a dangerous gamble. A Christian business doesn't just chase trends, it seeks truth. Proverbs 16:3 says, commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. That means your strategy meetings shouldn't just include financial forecasts. They should include quiet time with God. Because what works in the world isn't always what's wise in the kingdom. Some of the most successful godly business leaders have one thing in common: they don't move without direction from above. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Before launching a new campaign or hiring a new team member, invite the Holy Spirit into the conversation. Practical tip: start your work week with a prayer meeting. Even 5 minutes can align your vision with God's. Heaven isn't far away when your business is rooted in surrender. And don't stop there. Pray over your contracts, your marketing, your clients. Ask the Lord to remove what looks good but isn't good for your purpose. Planning with prayer is like having divine GPS. It may reroute you, but it will never mislead you. A Christian business doesn't just pray in crisis. It prays in clarity too. Not just when things go wrong, but even when everything looks right on paper. Because paper doesn't reveal what only God sees. This kind of planning may feel slower at first, but it accelerates success long term. It protects you from partnerships that would poison your purpose. And it positions you to receive blueprints that no human mind could have drafted. Just like God gave Noah the exact measurements for the ark, He can give you your blueprint too, but only if you're willing to listen. And that's where mentorship comes in. Spiritual mentorship. Why every Christian entrepreneur needs biblical counsel. No matter how talented or visionary an entrepreneur may be, flying solo is a setup for failure. In the Bible, even kings had prophets. David had Nathan. Solomon had his father's wisdom. And you? If you're running a Christian business, you need voices around you who hear from God, not just from the market. Proverbs 11:14 says, where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety. Spiritual mentorship isn't optional, it's protection. A godly business grows healthier when its leader walks in humility and seeks correction. That means opening your plans to trusted, seasoned believers who aren't impressed by your numbers but focused on your obedience. It means being teachable. Maybe there's someone in your church who built the business from scratch, or a spiritual father who knows how to discern timing. Don't just look for coaches, look for covering. There's a difference. In practical terms, schedule regular check-ins with your mentor, not just when you're in trouble. Share your wins, your doubts, and even your temptations. Ask for feedback on financial decisions, staffing, and spiritual direction. Read The Mentor Leader by Tony Dungy. It'll shift how you view leadership. This isn't about control, it's about accountability. You can't build a godly business with worldly methods and expect eternal fruit. And sometimes mentorship isn't comfortable. They might tell you, wait when you want to run, or let go when you're holding on. But trust me, correction from the right source can save your calling from collapse. And once you're walking under spiritual guidance, the next battlefield is living with integrity when no one's watching. Integrity in the marketplace, how to be a light in the midst of corruption. In today's business world, cutting corners is often celebrated. Everyone does it. It's just business. But for a Christian business, integrity is not negotiable. It's your testimony. Proverbs 10:9 says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways crooked will be found out." Godly business leaders are called to stand out, not blend in. And that means saying no when the world says just this once. It's in the little things. Not falsifying numbers to impress investors. Not exaggerating marketing claims to sell faster. Not underpaying workers just to boost your bottom line. Even when no one's watching, God is. And He honors those who choose righteousness over revenue. Daniel ran the finances of an entire empire and never once compromised. That's not fiction. That's a model. You can be excellent and ethical. That's kingdom business. Now, how do you live that out in practice? Start with your contracts. Are they honest and clear? Review your pricing. Are you exploiting or serving? Pay your employees on time. Build transparency into your systems. Want a book to stretch your thinking? Read Integrity by Dr. Henry Cloud. It's a blueprint for building character into your leadership. And if you lose a deal because of your ethics, celebrate because you just passed heaven's test. A godly business that shines in the dark attracts attention, not just from clients, but from God Himself. And the reward for integrity is trust. Trust builds loyalty. Loyalty builds legacy. And when God sees He can trust you with little, He starts multiplying the rest. Speaking of multiplication, divine multiplication. When a little becomes a lot in God's hands, one of the most beautiful principles in the kingdom is that God doesn't need much to do something big. He just needs surrender. The same is true in business. A Christian business doesn't rely only on capital or connections. It relies on God's power to multiply what seems small. Remember the 5 loaves and 2 fish in Matthew 14? That wasn't a catering plan. It was a miracle. And it all started with someone willing to offer what they had. Many entrepreneurs hesitate because they think, I don't have enough. Not enough money, not enough experience, not enough influence. But God never asked for enough. He asked for faithfulness. Zechariah 4:10 says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." What you have may not impress Wall Street, but if it's surrendered, it can impact nations. That's the difference when your business is in God's hands. Practically speaking, don't wait to start just because your resources look tiny. Start the blog, launch the product, open the service, watch God breathe on it. Testimonies abound of Christian entrepreneurs who began with almost nothing. Homemade soaps, small coaching groups, handmade crafts, and now lead global godly businesses. Why? Because when the seed is holy, the harvest is heavy. But remember, multiplication also tests your stewardship. Can you handle growth with the same humility you had in the beginning? Because sometimes God delays increase, not to punish you, but to prepare you. And sometimes He blocks growth altogether. But don't panic. Those closed doors might just be divine protection. When God closes doors, discerning the no that saves your future. Not every opportunity is a blessing, and not every closed door is a failure. Sometimes God's greatest acts of mercy come disguised as denial. A Christian business that thrives knows how to discern divine detours. Revelation 3:7 says, "What He opens, no one can shut, and what He shuts, no one can open." That means if the deal collapsed, the investor walked away, or the launch didn't go through, it might not be sabotage. It might be salvation. Entrepreneurs often feel the pressure to force things open. But forcing what God has shut can lead to frustration, debt, or even moral compromise. Think about Paul in Acts 16. He wanted to preach in Asia, but the Holy Spirit said no. Later, God redirected him to Macedonia, and revival broke out. That delay didn't kill his mission, it refined it. A godly business learns to ask not just can I, but should I? And that simple question can protect you from spiritual bankruptcy. Here's a practical filter. When something doesn't work out, don't panic, pause. Ask God what He's doing in you, not just for you. Keep a journal, seek counsel, look for patterns. Closed doors often come with quiet confirmations, lack of peace, misalignment in values, unclear vision. And remember, a detour isn't a dead end. It might be that God's working behind the scenes to lead you to something 10 times better. So don't idolize your plan, surrender it. Trust that the one who gave you the vision also knows the best version of it. Because when you're led by the Spirit, every no is just setting you up for the right yes. And when you start getting this level of clarity, you'll see what truly matters most. Family and faith. The true success of a Christian business. Success isn't measured by profit margins alone. It's measured by peace at home and legacy in faith. What good is a booming business if your marriage is cold and your kids barely know you? A Christian business must be built with priorities in order. God first, family second, business third. 1 Timothy 3:5 says, "If anyone does not know how to manage his own household, how can he take care of God's church?" The same applies to business leadership. Many entrepreneurs burn out not because of business failure, but because they neglected what truly mattered. They were always on, always pushing, always chasing. But your family isn't just a support system. They're part of your calling. A godly business doesn't ask you to sacrifice your family on the altar of ambition. It invites your family into the mission, even if that just means protecting your time and being present. Here's a practical shift. Schedule your calendar around your values, not just your goals. Block time for your spouse. Create Sabbath rhythms. Pray with your kids before bed, even during launch season. Want a powerful read? Try Family-Driven Faith by Vadi Bakum. It'll flip your view of legacy. Because at the end of the day, it's not your client list or your balance sheet that will speak at your funeral. It's your family. When your home is in order, your business can thrive in order. And when your faith is the foundation, every success is grounded in gratitude, not greed. And that's the bridge to our final and most urgent truth. It's never about building an empire, it's about building eternity. Mission over millions. Turning your godly business into an eternal legacy. At some point, every entrepreneur faces this crossroads. Will you chase impact or just income? A Christian business is not just a vehicle for wealth, it's a vessel for worship. The goal is not just to make money, but to make a mark for eternity. Colossians 3:23-24 says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." That means your business should be a ministry in motion. Godly business leaders think beyond the transaction. They think legacy. Who's being lifted by what you're building? Are lives changing? Are communities being restored? Mission-driven businesses don't just sell, they serve. You can still scale, grow, and profit, but your why is bigger than the bottom line. Look at companies like Eternal Wall of Answered Prayer or Christian-owned ventures funding orphanages and church plants. That's kingdom entrepreneurship. Here's a challenge. Take one part of your business and turn it into mission. Maybe a percentage of each sale funds Bibles for prisoners. Maybe your office hosts weekly Bible studies. Or maybe your hiring process intentionally includes single moms or ex-addicts. You're not just creating jobs, you're building altars. And when God sees that kind of heart, He releases provision you didn't even ask for. Because in the end, it's not about what you built, but who you became while building. When you stand before God, He won't ask about your followers or funnels. He'll ask if you were faithful. And that's why the way you start matters just as much as how you finish. Now that you've seen what a truly God-centered business looks like, the question is simple. What will you do with this? Will you keep chasing money at the cost of your mission? Or will you finally surrender your plans to the one who gave you the breath to dream in the first place? Because here's the truth. Success without God is just noise, and sooner or later, the noise dies out. What would change if you started praying before planning? What doors could open if you tithed before scaling? What kind of legacy could you leave if you led your team with faith instead of fear? These aren't just nice ideas, they're urgent decisions. You don't have time to waste building on weak foundations. Type in the comments, "With God, my business will never end," and watch the power of that declaration begin to shift the direction of your business and finances completely. If this message challenged you, inspired you, or opened your eyes in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Apply it, share it, and consider supporting our ministry so we can keep bringing biblical truth into the business world. You can do that through the link in the description. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications. Because this is just the beginning. There's still so much to learn, and God still has a lot to say about your business.